Hi there. We have summer. We indeed do have summer in Finland as well. A few weeks ago it was still snowing when I was photographing the Saimaa ringed seal. And in this video I'm gonna give you a few tips about the species, how to photograph it and how to find it, and what kind of gear you need to have to do that successfully. Saimaa ringed seal is one of the few seal species that live in freshwater in the whole world. Actually, there are only 5 freshwater seals, and they are all pretty much, very rare because they live in those particular bodies of water, those lakes. And one of them is the Saimaa ringed seal. There are only 450 individuals about existing today, so it is very endangered, and they almost went extinct in less than 100 years ago when there were, I think, less than 100 individuals left. So hunting and fishing both have been the biggest threats to them, and fishing still is the biggest threat to them. They used to live in the whole area of the Lake Saimaa, but these days, because of fishing and other problems, they only have certain spots and areas where they live. They don't live in the whole lake anymore, because the lake itself is not like one singular body of water. It's more like different parts. It's within a huge area, and there are thousands of islands and different little parts of that lake. So it's a very interesting, kind of like an archipelago, I guess, type of a lake. It's very, very interesting and cool looking place. But it's not like a one singular bay type of a lake, It's a very rare, endangered, special species, very beautiful one. It has a beautiful fur. It is relatively small seal species, usually weighs less than 100 kilograms. Early May, from the time the ice coverage of the lake starts to melt until early June, that's the best time of the year to photograph them. Otherwise, it's quite hard to even see them, because they like to spend like 99% of the time just underwater. They need to come to breathe, I think, like every 5 or 10 minutes, but they usually you can only really see like little eyes and just because like this like little spot, little part of the animal, so top of the head really, when they do that. So that's not really an ideal way to photograph them. You want to have the whole animal in your photograph, so the best time of the year to do that is the springtime. And they have a very beautiful fur. They have very nice shapes in the fur. That's where the name comes from, ringed seal. Easiest and the best way, the way that I did it and the way that I suggest everybody really doing this, is to book a professional ringed seal safari. You have a guide, you have a boat, and everything is prepared for you, and they are professionally done. You don't harass the animals. They know where to find the animals. And well, anyway, let's go to the trip that I did. I'm gonna tell you what gear I used and what I would suggest for you to bring with you if you're interested in doing this with a camera, because you don't really find a lot of information of photographing this particular animal, because most of the clients that they have on these safaris are not actually professional photographers. They are just tourists who want to see the seal, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it just means that they don't have a lot of information for you when it comes to the actual gear, what you want to bring with you and stuff like that. The distances for the subjects, the seals in this case, are usually quite long because you don't want to harass them. So you have an open boat that fits maybe 10 people, and if you are lucky there are less people, so it means that you have more space to pan your camera around, and you really need to have long focal lengths. I brought with me the Sony 200 to 600 millimeter, and with some individuals it was enough. With others we saw 6 seals, so that was a very good trip for 3 hours. They cannot obviously always guarantee that you see a seal, but it is very common. You usually do see seals, especially in the early May. So it is very likely, but it is not obviously 100%, because there are only little bit over 400 of them in the whole lake, and it is a quite huge lake. But anyhow, I would suggest you bring with you at least a 600mm lens. In some cases 500mm or 400 might be enough, but in most cases that you are gonna be experiencing, you are gonna need to have longer focal lengths. The distances from the boat to the seals is at least 100 meters. It might be even 400 meters. So it means that if you have teleconverters, bring them with you, and if you have a crop sensor, use that. The light is usually pretty good around that time of the year, so you don't really need to worry about that much. So the more focal length that you can carry, the better. If you are satisfied with more wider shots, with a lot of the milieu, you know, the landscape and the seal within that landscape, you know, very wide, extremely wide shots, I mean, then you might do just fine with the 300mm, but I wouldn't really go lower than that. So, you know, just keep that in mind. You really need to have that focal length, you know, that reach. You really need to have it. And when it comes to gear, that's pretty much it. The safaris will give you binoculars. You don't need to worry about camouflaging yourself or anything like that. You just, you know, bring a good lens with good reach and you'll do just fine. And those safaris are relatively cheap for the amount of photos that you on a good day get on a trip like that. I was able to, I think I got about 1,000 stills on that 3-hour trip, and about 300 of them I guess were like what I would call good. So it's a very, very good success rate. Usually on a solo trip you won't get that sort of amounts of good photographs, so it is very much worth the money. And obviously Saimaa Lake is a huge lake with a lot of other species as well, and you will see a lot of these different species, mostly birds, on these safaris as well. So if there are not any seals visible at a particular moment, there is gonna be ospreys, there's gonna be whooper swans, there's gonna be Canada goose and all kinds of other water birds and gulls obviously. So when you're not busy with the seals, you're trying to find one, there's most likely gonna be an osprey circling around, or an osprey's nest or something, you know. Just the landscapes are very beautiful with the rocky shores and beautiful forests. So there's always gonna be something to photograph, even if you're not gonna be able to find a lot of seals. I had a blast on my trip. I'm gonna most likely do it again next year. I highly recommend you book one yourself if interested. I wouldn't recommend going with your own boat because, as I mentioned, there's a lot of islands, there's a lot of rocks, it's kind of dangerous if you don't know the waters, and obviously if you go solo there might be a chance that you go and harass the animals, and you don't want to do that. You want to play it safe and do it with the professionals so you don't put the seals itself in danger. Personally, I think these safaris are a great way also, and a great factor in also protecting the species itself these days. When all, you know, the customers come on daily basis to see the animals in their own habitat, it makes illegal hunting and stuff like that, all kinds of shady things, much more risky.